Welcome back to the Thinc Conversations. I'm still with Monde Ndlovu. And Monde, it's an astute thinker. He has been with serious companies. I know he worked with the PricewaterhouseCoopers and quite a number of companies. And as I said, he's not new to the BMF. The BMF was at some point a dinner table conversation at his home, you know. But I'm just asking this question, Monde, that of blacks in leadership or programs that are directly nuanced for this challenge. Because this takes me to some of the questions that I'm going to follow you on. Are you working on something like that? I mean, there are women in leadership programs where people focus on issues that are affecting women. Do we have a capacity to come up with something that says, but why is it that when black people are in charge of companies that are owned by them, the managers, they collapse? I mean, we know the story of the African Bank. Now there is this chicken company that has just collapsed at the hands of some of our people. Why is that a challenge? Is it a question of blacks? What are the dynamics there?
So, leadership generally is a big challenge. So, let me come back to why BMF put managerial leadership together as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
In that we don't just talk management or we don't just talk leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We talk managerial leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and business schools will separate those concepts. They would never put managerial leadership in one term like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we deliberately collide the two. Why do we collide the two? Management has got to deal with processes, it's got to deal with authority, legitimate authority, budgets, structure, etc. That's management. But on the leadership side, it's more people-driven, working with people, inspiring people, driving a particular vision going forward. And in leadership, it's not really about the title, it's about how you carry yourself.
Expanded discretion.
Yes.
How do you apply your expanded discretion?
Yes. So now, in the BMF then, we then say we are colliding the two because we want the individual to develop competencies on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just a manager, you're not just a leader, but you're a manager and a leader at the same time. So that is the philosophical underpinning, so to speak, of our approach to leadership, in that we want the individuals who are BMF people, and we call it BMF type manager or BMF type leader, that has these two perspectives in an individual and colliding at the same time. So when then you ask the question, when we see black leaders at a C-suite level being unsuccessful, we also have black leaders at a C-suite level who are successful at the same time. So it made...
The trick is that those that are successful, we find them in companies that are white-owned, most of them. And those that we find most of the time not being successful is those that are managing black-owned companies. Are there dynamics in these two worlds that make it difficult to succeed this side and succeed this side? What is it about managerial leadership that the BMF has found out, if you have studied, or should you go and study it? What is it? I hear you. I know that there are good, we've got the Sim Chabalalas of this world. We've got Uputi, Sizwe Ngasana. We've got Ruel Koza, who made it at some point. We've got quite a number of successful guys who are CEOs. But when you check the companies that they're in, they have a relationship with those companies with stock ownership. But you come to Daybreak, you come to the old African Bank, you come to VBS. I can go okay, I don't want to look like I'm reading a list of obituaries, but why is it? What are the dynamics?
Yeah. So we haven't done the extensive research as to what could be some of the issues that are triggering a lack of so-called black success in those spaces, because in any case, it's not just it is because there might be black people running at a C-suite level, because we also do have issues with whites at a C-suite level who are not necessarily successful.
Yeah.
And so we need to strike that type of balance to say that, and hence I'm talking about the concepts of manager and a leader, in that when you practice leadership, you will come across those challenges. So there might be an insufficient training on the part of those that have their hands on the levers of power as they lead, one. Number two, there might not be a deep appreciation of what is really at stake when they lead at the highest level, which then questions their values as individuals, because values is another key component of what we have always preached in the BMF, to say that a particular value system ought to be delivered by leaders who call themselves BMF type managers, and how then they subsequently lead, because at the heart of it is the value, a particular value system. And so those are just some of the things that pop out to say that there's a question on values, and if there's a question on performance, one of my father's arguments had always been, if there's a question on performance, then there's a question on your values. So if you have a problem delivering on something, whether you're black or white, your issue is your value system. So you've got to go back to what are your actual values as a leader that take place. So values take precedent when we begin to analyze the performance of these businesses right across the board. And so it's not necessarily that it's black people, because there is success also with black leadership. So it's beyond a racial
blackness.
issue.
It's beyond blackness.
It's beyond blackness in terms of lack of performance. Why do companies lack performance? Do they understand how they're structured and what they need to deliver? To have the right people in there in terms of at a C-suite level and other layers of that business, etc. So there's other issues that we need to have a look at as to what has made a particular business go under, apart from looking at is it race-based? We don't think it's...
Or it's an environment issue.
Is it an environmental issue? Is it a business practice issue? Is it a...
But let's talk about, when we walked to the studio, I've asked a question about your participation in the G20 and that and that and that. It is interesting that we have the C-suite of countries that are part of the G20 coming to South Africa, public sector, private sector, and all those things. My question is our South African C-suite essentially your BMF members? Are they really involved at that level of C-suite engagement? Can they be globally competitive, the ones that we are producing? You're talking about the BMF type leadership. How globally competitive is that BMF type C-suite going to be?
So on the question of how globally competitive, then we've got to look back at who have produced and continue to produce. And by the way, not everyone BMF has produced is a BMF member. If you now go back to the impact of the Employment Equity Act, the impact of the Basutu Hat, etc. So we do have now a generation, if you look at the banking sector, there's a lot of black professionals have come through in the financial services space, whom a lot of them are not necessarily our members, if you look at bottom line numbers around that. So the impact of the BMF is far beyond us looking for those who are actual members, if you follow my argument.
Yeah.
So to say that the impact of ensuring that we develop as a country a particular skilled set of black leaders coming through, because that's what we've always been fighting for.
But you call them BMF type leader. They might not be BMF members, but they are BMF type leaders.
Yes.
So I'm saying the BMF type leaders that you are producing, what are the attributes that will tell us that they will be globally competitive?
So the attributes, one, that they have an attitude of lifelong learning.
Okay.
Number two, that they have a particular value set which is country-centered. So even in the articulation, you can hear that they are for the country, that the roles that they're in, they're not just about them. It's how they can take the businesses and make them globally competitive themselves, and ensuring that they surround themselves with a team of black people who are talented, competent, and also share the same value system as them as well. So as an example, you look at Dr. Mteto Nyati in terms of his impact in South Africa, in the different spaces he's been in, and the principles he's applied there. That's a BMF type of a leader. He's never been a president, as an example of BMF. He's never been in the leadership of BMF, but
he's got that DNA.
He's got the DNA of it. Whether you analyze Dr. Ruel Khoza, you're now going back to different generations, but Professor Bonang Mohale, who has been a BMF president before, you look at his impact even at Bidvest and the decisions that he's taken in bringing women on board, ensuring that women come through not only executive level but at a board level as well. That's the DNA. You've got a full view of how the business ought to replicate.
I want to ask you one question, then I want to wrap up. I have little time, but the one question is, the Constitution of South Africa says, and you spoke about BMF members in the public service, it says the public service must be able to loyally execute the policies of the government of the day, which means that you don't have to align with whatever political, you just have to execute whoever is giving you lawful instructions of the day. Is that part of the BMF type leadership, that you produce leaders that are going to go there and just execute what they need to execute, irrespective of who is in charge?
Certainly. And so hence I spoke about country duty as a manager and leader.
Yeah.
That whether in corporate or public sector, doesn't matter where you find yourself, that the decisions you take there must benefit the country. There's a country view on how you must lead those organizations. And so in the public sector specifically, those BMF type leaders will put the country first.
And that brings us to the end of today's conversation with Monde Ndlovu. South Africa faces a management and leadership challenge. Our C-suite should lead the country's transformation journey, which should involve, as a rule, integrating the management of technology, management of innovation, management of people, and management of systems. Professional and advocacy institutions such as the BMF should make this the agenda of South Africa for the next 30 to 50 years. And we've seen that the BMF has that as an agenda. I'm Lucky Matebula. Thank you to Monde Ndlovu. I'm signing off.